Someone asked me the other day, Daniel, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? I thought to myself for a moment. I looked her in the eyes and I said, you know what? The hardest thing I've ever done was to deal with my own problems, to deal with my own personal issues. And I believe that's the same thing for every single person in this world. Because the hardest person to ever deal with in this world is you. You're your own competition. And sometimes you're your own enemy if you allow yourself to be. Now, we have two voices in our mind, the voice of truth and the voice of lies. And we have to choose assiduously which voice we want to listen to. We have to understand what this voice is saying to us. Now, if we hear the evil thoughts, the thoughts of lies, we have to reason it out and ask ourselves, is this true? For instance, the voice might say, you're dumb, you're short, you're black, you're white, you're ugly, right? There's these evil voices, right? They say negative things. You're not good enough. You don't have the money. You can't afford it. It's too far. But you can also tune in to the voice of truth. You are special. You are intelligent. You are pretty and handsome. You are strong. You can afford it. You can make it happen. You can go the distance. You can win in life. And if you listen to this voice, then you are going to win. But if you listen to the voice of evil, then you're going to lose. Now, how do you tune into which ones? First, you have to make a list of the current problems that you have. All right? Because if you're going to address the problems and you want to deal with this inner voice, you have to make a list. What are these current problems that you're facing right now? I guess you can call them sins. What current sins are you facing right now that may be holding you back? And this is what I did. I made a list of all the sins. And trust me, guys, I was a sinner. But if you want to keep on winning, you got to stop your sinning. And I understood that at the age of 21. So I wrote down all my sins. I want you to do this for yourself. Write down all the things that might be holding you back in your life. Self-doubt, pornography, gossiping, cheating, abuse. There's a whole bunch of things. Overeating. Maybe you stay up too late. Maybe you don't get enough sleep. Maybe you neglect certain things. Maybe your finances are completely out of order and you haven't been organized. You don't even know your credit score or how much you have saved up in the bank or what your retirement plan is. You see, sins they're lurking. They're silent. So you don't necessarily know all the time what they are unless you have a discerning mind, unless you listen to the voice of truth. The voice of truth is going to say, look, this is what I got to work on. And your mind will get to work on it. But that's why I challenge you to write it down. Because the hardest thing you'll ever do is to face those sins. Now, let's assume that you did write them down and you knocked them out one by one, every week, every month, a full year. You've conquered most of that evil nature, most of those sins, most of those problems personally. Now what? Okay. In that process, you might have seen some resistance from other people. Maybe you've seen some persecution. Maybe you've been confronted with some enemies, haters, critics, cynics, whatever you want to call them. And the truth about these people is that they're ruled by a higher power, right? Just like how you're ruled by higher power by God, right? You are controlled by God. They are ruled by a higher power. Some people call it the devil. And the devil gets mad, right? When you're winning and they're sinning, there's a little competition right there, right? And people get flustered because the enemy sees you succeeding. You're not obeying him. You're not listening to your flesh. You're not listening to the evil desires that are lurking within your heart. You're not obeying that. He's going to be like, yo, let me get my people to attack you. Because he has a lot of people that are living in sin, right? He has a lot of people who haven't addressed their problems. And these people are going to be like, yo, I got to attack this person because I'm jealous of them, right? They don't want to deal with their problems, so they're going to look for yours. Any time you might slip up, they're going to try to attack that because that's their opportunity. Because they haven't learned how to deal with it. They want to attack what you've been able to deal with. That's called jealousy, right? And that's the second hardest part about dealing with your sins, right? Because then you reach a higher level. All of a sudden, people that loved you are now hating you, right? Your neighbors, your friends, your parents, siblings, whomever, right? Co-workers, boss, employees. Because you've straightened out yourself, right? You've figured out a way to do it differently, to live more successfully. And that agitates the enemy. That burns the devil so badly. The negative force, if you want to call it that, right? We're kind of talking about the law of attraction too, right? You've attracted yourself to success by getting away to things that hold you back from it. And then the people who are seeing you do this unconsciously know that you are succeeding beyond what they could have ever imagined. And they're mad about it because how are you doing it, but I can't do it, right? They can't see themselves, so they're looking at you, obviously, right? But then what happens is that the enemy doesn't know how to actually attack you because you're protected by God, right? They might try to shoot you. They might try to insult you. They might try to kill you. They might drive by your house. They might attack you in every way, right? But God protects you because you are obeying. You've been praying. You've been obeying. You've been listening. And so no enemy, no weapon formed against you shall ever prosper. And once the attacks subside, once the devil realizes, man, I can't get this guy, I can't get this lady, she's too committed, he's too intelligent, there's too much protection, he runs away, right? The enemy flees when you take shelter in God, when you take refuge in the Almighty. I know I'm speaking spiritually, but I hope you can keep up. And what begins to happen is that you become strengthened, you become fortified, you become lifted, you become greater. But then the next round of testing comes, right? Because all of this was testing in the first place, right? And this is basically the third stage. The first stage is realizing, writing it down, overcoming them. The second stage is dealing with your enemies and the persecution, harassment, everything like that. And now the third stage is the cycle, right? To do it again. Because sometimes people do get promoted and then they get stuck, right? Maybe they get that big corporate promotion, or maybe they have the new house and they feel good and then they get stuck, right? This is why most people are middle class and they never become rich, right? This is the great separator, because God is asking you to do it again. God is saying, repeat the process. Now, when you repeat the process, there will be more deception, but there will also be more opportunities. And the reason why people fail at this level is because they rest on their laurels. They want to do what's convenient to them. But to take it to the next level, you have to do what is inconvenient to you, because ultimately the goal is to add more value to others than others can add to you. So you don't just sit down and watch sports. You don't just watch the news and study everything else that's unrelated to your success. No, you fine tune and you become even greater. If you're making $100,000 to $300,000 a year and you think that's good, I believe you can do better. I was at that level before, and I said, you know what? $300,000 a year is not enough. It might sound crazy to some of you. Might say, wow, that's a lot of money. But the truth is that when you run a business, I live in the richest county of America. When you live in the richest county of America and you have certain things that you're trying to uphold, you have employees you're trying to pay, you got to make $1 million a year. And eventually $10 million a year, right? Whatever your goals are, you have to aim bigger. And so that's the third part, right? Knowing that you can actually do more, repeating the cycle. Understanding that there's a great commitment to become the best version of yourself. And then when you go on that path, there's a lot of testing. Like you literally could see the devil manifest themselves in many forms, through people, through situations. And sometimes this is years of testing that you have to go through in order to break through fully. But once you break through, you hit the fourth stage. The fourth stage, which is realization. Realization is basically when you know basically everything. Very few people come to this point. Very, very few. Like less than 0.1%. There's probably only thousands of people who've reached this point. And some people call it, Maslow would call it actualization, full actualization. But true realization is when you see the enemy attacking, you already know what to do. You obey God, and then you just live on this level for the rest of your life. You're basically like a spiritual person, fully spiritual in an evil world. Every time you get a negative thought, you know how to reaffirm yourself, you know how to set the goals, you know how to get back on track. And you basically never fail in that area again. If anything, it's not failure you're dealing with, it's success. It's you fending off the enemies. It's you seeking shelter. It's you staying disciplined. It's you basically holding to the truth that you've always known. And trust me, I understand what this level feels like. This is the hardest level to be on because almost no one understands it. Right? Even the closest people in your life might not understand it. They might understand parts of it, but you're kind of like, you're protected by Daddy in heaven. You're protected by God on this level. Completely, right? You're having divine conversations. And if you share what you learned with some people that in your life, they're going to be like, you're crazy, right? They might write you off because you're getting divine thoughts and you're sharing it with people who are living in sins. Think about that. You're getting the highest level of teaching from God directly, and then you're sharing it with people who are not even talking to God even once in a while. People who may not even attempt to talk to God, right? So imagine how much you would have to withhold. Imagine how much wisdom you would gain in the fourth stage, right? When you're on stage 4, it's sometimes frightening because there's a lot of sorrows. You see a lot of people who are losing that shouldn't be losing. You see people that are talented, far more talented than you, that are getting stuck in such a small way. And you want to help them, but you know that you can't, or you know that you have to keep doing what you're doing so that eventually someone like them or them themselves will come to the truth and eventually realize who they are. So the first stage is kind of knowing what the problems are and dealing with them head on. The second stage is dealing with the enemy and understanding, hey, look, I am getting attacked for being good, for doing right, for trying hard. The third stage is where most people get stuck as believers and for those who practice their faith. And that third stage is repeating the cycle, going to the next level. And that's where, it takes years to overcome that. You don't just jump from 3 to 4, right? Stage 3 takes years, sometimes decades for some people. And then stage 4 is actualization, where you're just completely and profoundly blessed by God. You basically see angles that people just can't see, and your perception is just at the highest level. One of my favorite words is perspicacious. It means having keen awareness. And level 4 is when you're just perspicacious. Let's put it that way. Anyways, guys, this is Daniel Aldie. I hope you enjoyed this message. Please comment, subscribe, share this video, share this audio with someone else. I know somebody's going to be blessed by this. All right, take care of yourself and always do big things. Take care.